Okay, welcome everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution. We are reading Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God Before Awaken the Species. And we are on chapter 28. And I've got to say, I've thought a lot about chapter 27 that we read twice last week, because a lot of us had a little trouble understanding it. But we can talk about that after we get through chapter 28. And without further ado, Linda, please, let's start.
You're muted, Linda. Linda, you're muted.
Thanks. I'll start over. Chapter 28, this is Neil speaking. I find myself wanting to insist that all of these things, all of this process that you've just explained to me so well, requires time and space for it to take place. And you keep saying that there are no such things as time and space. I'm trying to reconcile this. I see that you really want to get to the cosmology of life deeply. Sorry, it's as I said before. I guess I can't understand or accept any of this unless I understand and accept all of it. That's okay. That's good. Keep being skeptical. You're doing it on behalf of many of your brothers and sisters. This is about awakening the species. While I've explained much of this to you before, some may be coming to this for the first time, and others, like you, may have stored in the furthest reaches of their mind and forgotten what I've said to you before. So let's get into it, at least briefly here. And if you want more detail, you can go back into our previous dialogues and reread them. Okay, because what I'm getting now is that the process by which both humans and even highly evolved beings in another dimension evolve, experiencing themselves at higher and higher levels, seems to require time. So yes, I do need a refresher on this, and I think it will help me as a practical matter in the living of my life. It can and will, yes. So you're saying that even highly evolved beings live within what you describe as the illusion of time. They do indeed. The difference is they know it is an illusion, and so they focus on the illusion intermittently, as described a bit earlier, allowing them to use it for the purpose at hand. This is beginning to get past me a bit. I'm starting to go under here. I mean, over my head. Let's use an example of what can get you out of deep water. A DVD of your favorite movie. The whole story is there on the disc, is it not? Yes. But you don't watch it all at once. You focus the laser on the data one bit at a time, then the next, then the next, then the next, making it seem very much as if the data actually exists sequentially, even though you know better. You know it's all there at once. It's all there all the time. Now, if humans, as infants in the cosmic community of sentient beings, can figure out how to do that, what do you think highly evolved beings can do with the data of the giant disk called the universe? Well, you've given me this illustration before, and I forgot about it. Thanks for bringing it back into my awareness. And what a great analogy. I think I'm above water again. Good. So you're beginning to understand the illusion. But most humans do not know that time and space are illusory, and thus imagine that they are constrained by them and must obey the laws of time and space. It's like anything in life, really. When you know the rules, you can disobey them, or you can use them to produce whatever effect you wish. This is what I do on a grand scale, of course. And this is what any being who acts like God does as well. So you're seriously suggesting that we ignore the laws of time and space? Isn't that rather like suggesting a person who entertains delusions of grandeur go ahead and jump out of an airplane without a parachute because he can just ignore the law of gravity and can fly? I'm not suggesting you ignore any of the laws of the universe as you understand them. I'm suggesting you use them. How do we use them? How would the average person even know that they are illusions? They sure seem real to us. They're supposed to. That's the whole point of them. They were created to produce a contextual field within which you could express and experience yourself at the highest level, and then the next highest level, and then the next, and so on through all of your life and all of your lives. But my two questions still stand. How do we use these illusions? And excuse me, but how can we even know that they are illusions? Personally, I love the DVD analogy, but is there any way that this can be proven? You best use the illusions by understanding and realizing that time and space are not what they seem, and that you can react and respond to them in a variety of ways to produce a variety of experiences. For instance, have you ever noticed that time flies when you're having fun? Conversely, have you ever noticed that 3 weeks can seem like 3 months when you're waiting for something special or important? Yes, and I've also noticed that nothing makes me feel more productive than the last minute. That's right. You can accomplish more in 4 hours than you might normally do in 2 days when you feel it's the last 4 hours you have. Now, here is how understanding this can become practical. You can accomplish more in conserving the Earth's resources, protecting its environments, improving human conditions on the planet, and experiencing your own personal transformation in the next 10 days than you did in the previous 100, and in the next 10 years than you did in the previous century, if you choose to. The first step in making this possible would be to accept that time is an illusion and not let yourself be limited or discouraged by how little time it seems you have, or allow yourself to become apathetic because of how much time you think you have. Let the assessment of your abilities and the setting of your goals have nothing to do with time. Free yourself from those artificial constraints. You really can, as your old saying goes, begin doing right now what you have been putting off until tomorrow. As for proof, in terms of physics and not simply DVD analogies, that time, as you understand it, is an illusion. You are aware, are you not, that if you were to take a ride in a spacecraft and travel fast enough, far enough away from Earth, and if you could turn around and look back at Earth and gaze upon your brother, would you not see what is happening in his now, but in his past? Yes? Then I could actually see myself taking off. That's correct. If you could travel far away fast enough, you could turn back and peer into your own past. Well, that would mean I would exist in 2 places at once. Have you not ever talked to your future self? Similarly, if you began a journey from a position in deep, deep space when it was a certain time on Earth, and if you were able to take a snapshot of what was happening on Earth as you were racing there, what you would see at the same instant that your brother was experiencing his now on Earth would be your brother's future. I don't think I ever understood that. How can I know this is true? Study the work of Albert Einstein. Ask any physicist. They will tell you that there is a direct link between motion through space and the passage of time. Yeah, is this what the so-called space-time continuum is all about? It's exactly that. Space and time are not two different things, but one unified element of the cosmos, two aspects of a single reality. In that single reality, there is no such thing as past, present, and future. There is only how you're looking at the all of it. There is only the single golden moment of now, experienced from different places in the space-time continuum. You've told me that everything that's ever happened is happening now, and will ever happen is happening right now. So this is what you meant. It is. Our experience of time is created by our place in space. Is that what you're telling me? Yes. Then how can we ever change things? If everything has already happened, we couldn't change our future even if we wanted to. You could change the future that you and all of those living now experience. There is not just one future that exists, but every possible future that you could create. Think of it of a game of computer chess. Every conceivable outcome of every conceivable move is already on the program disk. You're determining how the game proceeds by the moves you make. But you could put the same disk into the computer tomorrow and play the game from scratch, making different moves, and the program would respond in a totally different way, producing an entirely different future with an entirely different outcome. In the computer chess game, all of the possible futures already exist, and you are deciding which of those outcomes you will experience based on the moves you make. Well, there's another wonderful analogy. Even my limited mind can now begin to conceive of reality in a new way. You and those who will live after you can and will change the future. You are merely selecting the future that you choose based on the moves that you make, affecting all those living with and after them, and so on through the ages. When I said that everything that ever happened is happening right now and that ever will happen is happening right now, I meant everything in the biggest sense of the word. This includes every possibility and every outcome and every future you could imagine, and some of which you could not even begin to conceive. So the future is assured. We know that it exists in some form or another, depending on what moves we make. The future is assured. But which future you experience is up to you. We're not talking predestination here. There is no one single future into which you have no choice but to step. There is the future that you are creating and experiencing based on the choices and the actions you take. You've so often said, there is more going on here than meets the eye. You were not kidding. You meant that literally. I did indeed. And now you have grown in your perception to the place where you can understand how I could mean it literally. So if you care about what your future will be like on Earth, you will begin creating that particular future by affecting and changing conditions now. Life will never end because life has no beginning and no end. But you will only experience in your present state of consciousness one life at a time. What your present life brings you, lifeline brings you, and all those who are traveling alongside you through space-time continuum depends on you and on them. You're making me think all about it. And I remember now that much of this is found in the transcript Home with God. I looked it up and I see there you told us clearly there is nothing mysterious about the universe once you look right at it, once you see it multidimensionally. It's not easy for you because you have placed yourself with a body inside of time and space, seeing, perceiving, and moving in the limited directions of which the body is capable. Yet your body is not who you are, but something that you have. Yes. And that is not all of what is being shared here that has been given to you by me before. But now, in this present conversation, you're putting much of it together in one place, capturing and re-energizing the main thrust of our previous exchanges. You and others can use this summary here as a quick reference, a solid reminder, and a powerful tool for any person who has self-selected to awaken to the fact that they are awakened, and to humbly commit to assist in whatever way they may be able in the awakening of others.
Thank you, Linda. And who would like to make a comment or ask a question?
I would.
Who's that, Alton?
Yeah. I'm sure some of you have read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Yes.
And he's, how do you chat to everyone? How do you send it? I've got a message I want to send you. Or I could read it. On Sunday, December 17th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for you, Andreas, I think you're 9 hours ahead of 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Where are you in Germany, just by the way?
I'm near Frankfurt, just outside suburb of Frankfurt.
Oh, I have a girlfriend who is known to the ladies here, and she's in Munich right now visiting her sister. Anyway, Eckhart Tolle is offering a free worldwide teaching, giving each of us the opportunity for, let me scroll, I'm just this technology, giving each of us the opportunity for a sacred pause amidst the season's to-dos. You are warmly invited to join us for this complimentary teaching with Eckhart Tolle, streaming live across the globe to help us deepen our experience of peace and presence during the holidays. So that is today, and I'm going to be watching it right after we end. There might be an hour difference. I have to figure that out. But anyway, on Sunday, December 17th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Eckhart Tolle is there. And then you could just go to his website, I suppose, or I could throw out the link that I got it from. So that's awesome. I saw it last year. It was deep, it was moving, it was wonderful. And he's the guy that wrote The Power of Now, and that's been the main absolute focus of what Linda just read to us. Now, it is now is now. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. Merry Christmas, too.
Thank you, Alton, and happy Christmas to you too, and a happy New Year. See, that's why I didn't sing, Linda.
But you're a good singer.
Oh,
That was good.
well, thank you. I think one of the things I was thinking of while we're, thinking of this as a DVD that's already got all the conceivable endings or occurrences, and the DVD game of chess. And I think about, I got to think about how I want to word this. I think about some things in my life that I probably wouldn't change even though they weren't happy times, because that makes me the sum total of who I am at this moment. But it also makes me wonder if I would want to go back and relive some of those happier times just to have those happier times experiences. But I'm not sure if that's the point God's trying to make here. Over.
Well, I don't know, Nanette, but I was thinking of it in a slightly different way. I was thinking about the future being assured, but all the different options being available. And I've been talking to a lot of people lately who are mediums and who give people readings that there is one future for them. And it's been really making them think, this conversation with God paragraph, which comes up in quite a few of the books, that there are optional futures to present to people. Over.
I see where you're going with that. And it's sort of like being on a path and changing onto a different path because you're not really happy with that path you're on right now. Or you are happy with that path, but you see something interesting over on another path. And I'm just going to leave that there and see what others may want to say. Over.
When it talks about multidimensional shifting and that your actions actually change that. So you're talking about reliving then those happy times and going back in the past and reliving those. You have the choice to do that or the choice not to do that. Is that what he's kind of saying here?
Well, that's what I'm guessing, but I'd like to hear from others.
I don't think it's a matter of going back and reliving it. Although, when you use, for example, the compassion key modality, a healing modality,
Yeah.
in essence, I think that this timelessness is actually what makes that modality work. If you're not familiar with it, basically, let's say, all of a sudden you're triggered and you find yourself feeling just angry rage at someone. The process of the compassion key would suggest to you to try and first figure out the first time you remember feeling that emotion. And it's probably not anywhere close to present time. It's probably something, in most cases, you end up thinking of something from when you were little. And so then what you do is you focus on that time when you were little, having that pain or emotion, and you give yourself self-directed compassion, or the facilitator, if you're working with a facilitator, gives you self-directed compassion. And in that process, it's not time travel, but it's very much like going back into that moment of time, that original moment when that feeling first was triggered, and working through it. And so in that sense, I guess you do end up changing the trajectory, because once you've gone back and healed it, it basically heals everything across time. And you end up letting it go, not just in, let's say it was you and your mother, but when you heal it, then you let it go across all time and all people. So other people won't trigger you that way anymore. Like, it's gone. So
is that unity then?
Well, I mean, it's you're moving towards oneness at that point. Every time you let clear one of those things and heal, you're definitely moving closer to
I work with Mystic,
oneness.
a facilitator in Pennsylvania, and I did just that. It was really marvelous, fabulous what the work he did with me.
Yeah.
It was really great.
So it's not so much like the movie, because the movie on the DVD is one outcome. It's much more like the chess game, where
Mhm.
all possibilities are contained
Yeah.
within.
Yep, that's a good analogy.
And that's why, I mean, those of you who know me know that I've been talking about this my whole life, because I became aware of it very young, that there's no such thing as time, but how you live in 3 dimension with that knowledge and how you use it. And that this chapter is really hitting on using it.
Mm.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This DVD analogy, when I first read Conversations with God, in one of the first 3 books, it's also in there. And when I met Neil last year in this homecoming, we had a whole afternoon talking about this DVD thing and trying to explain it in terms of physics. And because I was not so convinced, and so the thing it really came down that it is a metaphor for that in any moment where we are faced with having certain choices, there are certain probabilities for a path we are going towards what is coming after that. And it is not really that all these paths on the DVD are written in the same detail like the path we really going to take from now on. And in terms of physics and Einstein, in the end, Neil really said he was writing down what he was understanding from his understanding of physics, which is not very detailed. He admitted that. And so because I was at the same time, I was reading My Big Theory of Everything from Thomas Campbell, who is a physicist. And so I always was seeing some contradictions there. But it really, I've now made peace with this thing by seeing that Neil is using it as a metaphor of what he wanted to express, that we always have choices in front of us which are deciding the path we are going to take. And also the sentence, there is no time. It is, we can't express it with words. We are certainly living in a reality which we experience as physical and having time, because things are happening one after the other, and that is what we call time. But another interpretation would be if these potential paths or futures which are available, and let's say they are on a disk or they are written down with certain probabilities to be taken for us, that we actually can move with our feelings between the different paths, and then we evaluating which path to take. And then this step of moving between different potential futures, that is what we experience and also as time. And going back and re-evaluating and taking a different path but I think we can reincarnate in a very similar life again and take a different path. So that's also what I got from reading Niels, what he has written down. Sorry, yeah, so this is what I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Hi, can I just ask, Andreas, did you just say there that we choose our path in the life that we live now? We can move from one to the other.
Every moment has millions of branches which we can take, but we only seeing the most probable ones. But it doesn't mean that we take the one with the highest probability. So the highest probability one would probably the one, let's say a fortune teller is saying that might happen. That's the one with the highest probability. But quite often we are not going that way, and we are choosing a different path and changing things from. So things may look they are laid out for us, but with certain life decisions, we are branching off and going different ways.
Yes, because it was a few weeks ago, I had this thought. I was traveling along at the motorway, and the speed limit here in the UK is 70 miles an hour. And I was just going along up the motorway. I was in the outside lane and wasn't really taking much notice of my speed because I was miles away. Looked down, or looked across to the other side and saw a police car. Looked down at my speed, and I think I was doing over 80 miles an hour. So I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I hope he didn't have a speed gun. I hope I've not got caught speeding there. And then it dawned on me, because I was thinking about these possible futures, I thought maybe I could choose to live the life now where I haven't actually been done for speeding. Because I was thinking, there's no point in worrying about it, because what you fear you attract. And if I worry about the fact that I have been caught for speeding, there's nothing I can do about it, because if I have been caught, I've been caught. It's happened. But am I able to choose the life where I actually haven't been caught? Am I able to move from one to the other? And do we do that? Is that what we do without even thinking about it each day? Into different dimensions?
In terms of your speeding, that you get a speed ticket does not depend alone on you driving too fast and on the policeman seeing that. Also, the policeman is faced with a choice that whether he takes overtime and writes you a ticket or he just forgets about it. So also the policeman has a choice. And so you thinking about whether you get the ticket or you have a positive feeling about it won't be so bad, that has also an effect on the policeman and the whole situation, because I don't say we interconnected, we are all one. So it's everything depends on everything, because we are one organism, and so that's clear. Yes.
Yes.
I like that, Angela. I like that idea.
Yes. I'm still not quite clear on it.
Yeah.
So what happened, Angela?
Well, I didn't get a ticket, thankfully. Because what happened? It come in the post. You won't know. It just turns up in the post one day. But no, I didn't. So I chose well.
And so did the policeman.
Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Of course, the big loser is the government.
Well, they are losers, aren't they? Well, certainly ours are. Well, I think a lot of them, the world governments are losers, but there we go. That's another story.
Yeah, that's another side trip.
Yeah.
Well, that was a really interesting analogy, Angela. Because I think we've all been in that position, especially on the road, where we zipped past a police officer and went, the foot comes off the gas, as if you can undo the moment. I mean, there's an example of, I'm going to undo the moment and change the future. And as it turns out, if you're going to get the warning or the ticket, you're going to get the warning or the ticket. But as you said well, I don't want to sit here and worry about it, because if it's coming, it's coming. And if it's not, it's not. And either way, worrying about it or whatever it is, I don't know about you guys, but worry has never changed a thing for me. And I wish I would learn this lesson. Over.
I would just say that I was going to share that with the group when it happened some weeks ago. I was going to ask, relate that, because I was thinking about it. But I'm happy that I'd forgotten all about it. But I'm happy that I was able to say it today.
Yep. I'm going to do a short humor interlude here. My now 34-year-old son, his first year of driving, he got so many of those photo tickets where they just come through the postal service, the mail. And every time I'd see one, I would just go, oh my God, not again. And I would say, you got to be safe and blah, 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 blah. Well, that was like the 8th one. And number 9 comes up to my front door, and I just ripped it open, and I was like, I can't believe. And it was a picture of me. And my son was standing there, because I was like, just assuming it was him. And I said, oh, never mind. He goes, well, what is it? Yeah. But anyway, he just reminded me of that. All righty, let's see, how are we doing on time here?
So are you saying you're not that much better than him?
Oh, I've only gotten 2 tickets in my entire driving career. I probably shouldn't say that, but it was just one of those moments with your family when you're like, and then you're the one that is the guilty party. But I've gotten to a point in my life where I find myself under the speed limit, and young people behind me laying on their horn. But I digress. I mean.
Uh-oh, that means you're old.
Oh,
it's not old
thank
lady
you.
driving, is it?
Call it what we want.
No. Better be safe than sorry.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right. Anybody else want to add anything before we go on to the next chapter?
Can I just say about turning back time? I don't know if anyone else has done what I've done about, I say prayers, and I've sometimes forgotten to pray for something, and then I've remembered after the event, somebody was going through a trauma, and I've said, I'm praying this prayer in reverse that happened. You know what I mean? And I've believed it. I mean, you could believe it with this way of thinking.
Well, then you could even call it a prayer of gratitude that it did happen.
Yeah. Mm.
That's a good point. I meant to tell you, Sarah, for at least me, your sound is so much better these days. It doesn't cause all the walking on the moon type of stuff.
Good.
Yep, it's much better. Okay, anybody else? All right, Linda, this next chapter is fairly short, so we should be able to get through it and discuss it a little bit.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Linda.
Okay, this is chapter 29. Neil speaking. Let me get back for just a bit to those other advanced but not necessarily evolved entities who live on other planets in the cosmos. You said that some of them have continued to be violent, even as the young species of Earth is violent, even though they have advanced hugely in their technologies. So I have to ask, why were such sentient beings allowed to get so far along in the development of their civilization in the first place before being helped? Why weren't they approached by highly evolved beings from another dimension when they were young, as earthlings are now, so they could have healed or transformed their immature, violent behavior? They were, dear one, they were. And it didn't help? I don't get this. If you're God, and if these Hebes, what shall I call them, these emissaries, are one of many forms of divinity expressing and experience who they really are by helping other life forms to evolve, how could such an effort not have produced a shift in consciousness of those otherwise advanced entities, such that violence would have been simply abandoned? Every being in the universe, and by extension, every civilization, has free choice, remember? The fundamental characteristic of all sentient life forms is freedom. Freedom to create any reality they choose. Many of the civilizations that are now older did not choose when they were as young as Earth's civilization is to awaken to their true identity. But I thought that God could not fail. I mean, at anything. The idea that future exists is one of the 10 illusions of humans. So how is it that the attempt of Hebes from another dimension did not inspire advanced, but not fully evolved, beings living on other planets in the realm of the physical to awaken to their divinity as a matter of their own free will? None of their efforts are without benefit. They did inspire many individual entities, but civilization as a whole continued to choose yet another path. Yet, to answer your question about God failing, know that all sentient beings in the universe ultimately, freely choose to embrace their divinity. They do? Yes. The question is not whether they will freely make this choice, but whether they will do so before or after, because there caused so much damage in their civilization, and the planet on which they thrived, that life as they had known it, was altered forever. In many ways, the whole idea is to bring an end to life as they have known it, but exchanging it, of course, for a new and more joyous way of life, birthed by a new, transformed way of being. So it's not a matter of whether highly evolved beings existing in another dimension awaken those physical species, but when. You could frame it that way, yes. What does that mean? It means that within your framework of your present understanding of time, you could put it that way. Yes, we just looked at this. So, at some level, it's already happened. And as we've noted, nothing occurs in sequence. Everything is happening simultaneously. Your individual experience of this reality appears to you to be sequential, yet the reality exists in its totality simultaneously. Life is therefore what you might call sesquitaneous. Well, if the future has already happened, then you as God must already know about everything that's happened. So just tell us now what the outcome is, and we can be done with all our worrying and wondering and fretting and trying. I won't be doing that. Why? Because it's all a big secret and you're not supposed to let the cat out of the bag? No, because every conceivable outcome has already occurred. And the one that you and those of you in this life will experience is the one that you will choose. And I will not do anything to preempt that choice or the making of it by you. I will always leave you a choice in the matter. This is true godliness. This is the truest experience of divinity. And this is the experience I desire for you. Okay, I'm going to accept that and let it go. So for now, can we talk within the context of a sequential reality? The reality I'm experiencing in my life? We can, and we are. Good. Within that framework, I am now understanding that highly evolved beings have chosen to help Earthlings to awaken to who we really are. I understand as well that we have a choice to awaken before we damage our civilization and our planet, such that life as we know it disassembles and disappears. I assume that if we do not awaken now, during this early stage of our cosmic development, we would wind up living in this lifetime essentially as many older species in the physical realm do, becoming more and more violent even as we become more and more advanced. Those last 13 words are a description of how things are going on your planet right now. Yes, we are becoming more and more violent even as we become more and more advanced. That is the sadness of it. As we develop our technologies and our weapons of mass destruction even further, we could become so violent that we could completely self-annihilate. No, not completely. The superconscious will of your species will not allow it. No species ever totally, utterly, and completely self-annihilates. You may even have to find a way to mitigate or migrate to other inhabitable locations in the cosmos with but a handful of humans, but the species will never totally self-annihilate. You've come very close, though. Human civilization has already gotten very close. Are we talking Lemuria here and Atlantis? Yes, we are. So we have our work cut out for us here. We may not completely disappear as a species, but we can do plenty of damage if that's what we choose. Well, that is correct. Currently, that's not what most humanity is choosing. Yet many sentient beings do things that bear no relationship to what they choose. Remember our children with matches analogy. Yes, very young children who light matches and start a fire that burns the house down did not choose to do that. That can be the outcome of what they did, but it is not what they chose. The only reason the house burned down is because the fire department didn't arrive in time. In your case, in the case of your civilization, the fire department has arrived. That's what the third invitation is all about. You are the fire department. You and others, like you on Earth, who are going to self-identify as being committed to assist the awakening of the species. If that's the case, I need to ask that we now turn this conversation into a look at something more personal. Remember when you said I want to be careful not to focus so much on the fascinating aspects of all we've been discussing that I lose my focus on what's important for me to get out of this on a personal level to assist in my further awakening, my own further awakening. Yes. And you actually mentioned then the topic of full integration, which is exactly what I feel called to talk with you about now. And I think that others who have self-identified may have the same question that I do, or issue, if it's not unkind to put it that way. Go ahead, I'm here.
Thank you. In my book, it's on page 190. But Neil says, why? Because it's all a big secret and you're not supposed to let the cat out of the bag? And God says, no, because every conceivable outcome has already occurred. And the one that you and those of you in this life will experience is the one that you will choose. And I will not do anything to preempt that choice or the making of it by you. I will always leave you a choice in the matter. And I had two thoughts on that paragraph. And those of you who know me through these calls, that bit where it says every conceivable outcome has occurred, and I'm going to use the example of when my son was in terrifically horrific bicycle accident, and I was up in the mountains and got this phone call that I needed to get down to the hospital. And at that time, there was not much known. And every conceivable outcome had already occurred to me, and which is my worry issue. And at the same time, I had to remember that my son had his own choices to make in what the outcome was going to be. And hopefully it was going to be the highest, for the highest good for all. And I'm blessed that he survived that. What do other people think about that?
I'm just going to sort of jump here at a certain level of getting over the ego self, the little self, and just getting into presence, getting into God presence. We are the resurrection. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Not to me. Can you explain it?
Sure. Excuse the phone call, or maybe can I explain it? Well, life itself, in its purest essence, is life itself, and we are life itself. So as long as we don't have any fear or little self-personality interfering with the purest expression of life itself, oneness with God, oneness with Christ, oneness with the Buddha consciousness, we're utterly transcendent of it all. We create with our very thought. The next moment we create. So any choice that we make is our own choice. I think that's a pretty good start. I'd like to turn it over to anybody else to add to it or such.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, can I just say, because I'm actually away from home at the moment and I don't have the book in front of me, but it was saying there about the reason that the house burnt down is because the fire brigade didn't arrive on time, and not because the children were playing with the matches. But I don't quite understand that. I don't know if I'm just being picky here, but the fire brigade didn't choose to get there late. So I don't quite understand this choice thing, really. Over. Did I actually hear that right? Because like I said, I'm not able to refer back to the book.
Yeah, that's what it said. That is what it said.
Hmm. So is he referring there because the children are innocent and they didn't make that choice to burn the house down because they were just playing with matches? But neither did the fire brigade choose to get there late and not to stop the house from burning down, really, did they?
It's not too late. It's not too late. That's what it says to me. For us to save ourselves and avoid the sort of stuff that happened to Atlantis, for example.
Hmm.
It's an allegory, Angela.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get it now.
You know what I mean? It's not as if we've got insurance if we burn up the planet.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It's what we do about what's happening, basically.
Although in Trevor Noah's book, he burned a house and everyone shrugged and said, well, white people have insurance, you know? That doesn't apply here.
It's how we react to it, though, right? It's how we react to every situation. And we can change it through that, I think, if there is.
Yeah, I think it's a call to action to those of us who are on the path to awakening.
On the other hand, we could say, like Donald Trump, well, so another planet blows up.
Donald, Donald, Donald. Angela, I just wanted to say that that stood out to me too about the fire truck or fire department not arriving on time and the children. And I think with young children that end up playing with matches, they're sort of like a they're not having a premeditated, I'm going to burn the house down moment. They're having a premeditated, I want to play with matches moment. And they're not thinking through to the end or to what a possible ending could be, because little people's minds don't often work that way. And that's, I think, what caught me off guard when sorry about that.
You okay?
I've got a cold from my granddaughter.
Mm.
But I'm going to call it and say we won't be doing this next week or the following. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. See you guys next year.
Merry Christmas. See you
Merry
all.
Christmas.
Bye, everyone. Love you all.
Bye.
Love you all. Especially happy birthday again, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you,
It's a beautiful
Chi.
party.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Nice meeting you, Chief, seeing you, Andreas. Merry now, everybody.
Okay.
Love you all.
See you soon. Bye bye.
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 Bye.